Every day, every move I make is just to get closer. I've gotta get closer. Lead me, guide me, every step I take. It's just to get closer. I gotta get closer to.
Hallelujah. 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 To the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad, but not destroyed. To the people of this congregation, and most of all and foremost to our Most High Yah, our Elohim, and Yahweh Shai, his son, and his atonement for us. I send greetings and salutations. Today's message, it kind of came in a crazy way. So I'm gonna get started. It's gonna be, shouldn't be that long, but it's gonna lead into a lot of questions. It's gonna lead into a lot of kind of theatrical things from me. So I want y'all to understand when I get up and get down or do whatever I gotta do, I have to show you how this thing works so you'll be able to understand exactly what was meant. Last week, we were actually talking about, on a sidebar, we were studying confusion, but on the sidebar, we got into the preparation for next year's feast season. And it was kind of crazy that that next Monday, I was at work, and one of my coworkers, he came up to me and he was like, "Man, I need you to look up these words for me in Hebrew." And he's a pastor, a minister at in the Christian church. So I was kind of taken aback, but I was kind of happy too that he came to me and asked me to look these words up. So during lunch, I started looking up the words, and the word was actually, he wanted me to look up the word prepare and preparation. These two words, well, we all know the root of it is preparation, to prepare. So I was studying, looking up the word prepare, and it was like the Holy Spirit, the Ruach just fell on me, man. And it was to the point that it got so heavy that I'm sitting there in the middle of my cases trying to do procedures on patients, and I'm actually streaming. Tears just, like somebody had just punched me in my nose. I was streaming. And the Ruach was heavy on me, and the picture that the Most High showed me really touched me. So we're gonna go to John 14. And this is the gospel according to John. Chapter 14. Starting at verse 1 to 4. We got it. Say hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. And whither I go ye know, and the way ye know.
So that was the scripture that I first got when I started looking up this word prepare. And there's other references of the word prepare in the Old Testament. But the concept of this word prepare in the Hebrew, out of the Greek, really opened up my eyes to something. And the word is actually korah. And it is spelled Kof, Resh, Hey. And so for everybody to see in the pictorial, and when y'all get it, just, if you're writing, just let me know when you're finished. Now some people say Kawa, I say Korah. Koha. And it comes from the two-letter root, which is Kaf Resh, and that is Korah. I tried to write it in the modern as well as in the paleo, because you know how we are as Hebrews, we get, that ain't the right script. So I'm trying to learn paleo. The guy is working on me with paleo because I like to write in the modern script, because that's all I knew. And so I'm just learning. So if you got it, okay, and I'm gonna break this down. So basically, the cough represents the palm of an open hand. The resh, the top of the head, or the beginning of the head, and the hay is a man with outstretched hands. Now, the two-letter root kara, actually breaks down into the word, and it really means to dig or a bowl, which at that point I was just done. When I looked at the two-letter root, I was finished. I didn't even have to go no further. And I was like, what are you trying to tell me, Mosai? What are you trying to tell me? And so even taking the two-letter root, even if you just say corrupt, and you take this two-letter root, you come up with this. Don't worry about that. It's a straight bowl. And I was like, well, what are you showing me? Well, every one of the pictures had something to do. So if you look, so we came to a bowl. And this bowl, we were digging. So we all know that when we dig something, or we're digging out a trench, or we're digging out something, that we have to get in a position close to what we're digging. Now, to dig with a bowl, you would scoop and throw, but it's showing the hand. So it made me think you're digging with your hands. So you would have to be close and into the dirt and out. Into the dirt and out, which would put you in a position of reverence, or a position of prayer, or a position to where you would have to honor that in which you're doing.
That's right.
So when he says, I goeth to prepare a place for you, that ye, where I am, ye may be also. Then I started thinking, well, where are you? And the scripture tells us that he is seated where?
Right hand of the Father.
Now, he may not even be in a seat. He may be in this position,
Exactly.
sending up supplication for us and interceding for us.
That's right. Because he's the interceder. He's the interceder.
Ooh, boy, bad knees, boy, I'd have failed. We'd have ended that one out. So if Yahushua, Yeshua, is at the right hand of the Father, interceding for us, and he's going to prepare this place, then he's digging out something. He's digging out a place that where he is, we also will be.
Exactly.
Where? At the right hand.
Exactly.
In our priestly position
Right.
that was established from the beginning of time. So when he said he came to redeem us back into himself, he wanted to redeem us back into our rightful
Exactly.
position, into our proper function. Somebody grab Mark, first chapter, and just start at 1 and just start reading. Oh, before you do that, I want to show you something. So, Kaf, the open hand, or the palm. Resh, the head of man, the top, or the beginning. Hey, it means it's the raised up hand, or it's to look, or what else? To behold,
Pay attention.
or to reveal. So I go before my Father. I'm here, revealing where you should be also. What is the Ruach? It's there to reveal the truth to us. So where he is in a place where the Ruach is. So, man, I want to shout. So he's revealing himself to us through this,
Exactly.
so that we can get back in our rightful position. Because when we took upon sin upon ourselves, we got out of our position.
Right.
We couldn't function properly, which brought dysfunction, which we touched on last week, and which brought on sickness, which we talked about, which brought on illness, which then in turn brought on death. Hanash. Anash. To die. To be canceled out. So to redeem us back to himself, he has to take us out of the pit of death.
Dig you out.
So where did he go first? After he went down into the pit. He dug into the pit and grabbed us out of it.
Yeah.
He took that power of death over us, out of us. And he brought it back into himself. So he actually has the keys of life. Giving them back to his Father. All power in heaven and earth. So now that there is no power over, death has no power over us.
Exactly.
But by choice.
But wasn't that in the beginning? Because remember, in the beginning, how long did they live?
And even with Adam, people say, well, when he bit off the tree, he didn't die immediately. But yes, he did. Because in that, Adam did not live 1,000 years. And in heaven, a day is 1,000 years. So he would have barely died the same day in the heavens that he committed the sin.
That's good.
That's right.
So he lived to 970. And the Most High was like, okay, don't we just take them 70 years off. Don't even worry about that, player. We got you. So within the same year, the same day that you ate of this tree, you also died.
Right, you know it's true. Right.
Even though you lived 900 earthly years, the tally in heaven you lived less than a day.
That's the day. So you died that same
Day that you committed your sin, you died.
Right. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes, sir. I like it. That's good.
So when we dig, it means not only to dig, but this word also means to make ready a feast. He's the bridegroom. So he's preparing the bride feast, the wedding feast for us.
Exactly.
And so when you dig and you're preparing the garden, they would set a line,
That's right.
a straight line. Well, what's the straight line, folks? Torah, that's our straight line. He sets this straight line out in the midst.
That's your hand on the plow.
And we put our hands on the plow to dig. So Yeshua is actually digging out this straight line that we're supposed to walk on that will lead us back to the Father.
Right.
The Ruach is the line.
Right.
He is digging it.
That's right.
And he is revealing the truth through who he is. He is the Word.
Right.
John 1, in the beginning was the Word. And in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was Elohim. And the Word was with Elohim. And the same was in the beginning All things that were made was not made without him. And he was life, and life was the light of men. And the light shineth within the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Go down to 14. And the word became flesh and tabernacled amongst us, or it lived or dwelled amongst us, full of grace and of what? Truth.
Right.
You can't have grace, glory, without the truth.
Yes.
People don't want Torah. They just want the grace part.
Yes.
You can't receive grace without the truth.
Yes.
What made Noah able to survive during the period of the flood was grace.
Exactly.
How did he receive grace? He was considered righteous.
That's right.
And what does righteous mean? He was in the truth.
Right. Righteousness is the truth.
He followed the instructions of the Most High.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
When they took certain books out of canon, they ruined the minds of us.
Exactly.
So look, the Christian church has so much watered down stuff in it just by taking out 22 books that you can't get a full understanding that Torah was here from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Everybody in the church believes that Torah came with Moses. And that's not the truth. That's a lie. And if you got a half truth,
Then you got a lie.
you got a whole lie.
You know,
A whole lie. The half truth is a whole lie. The truth is that a Torah was established when he said, let there be.
Absolutely. Let there be light.
When he said, let there be light,
That was cool.
he said, the light shine in the darkness.
Right.
And the darkness comprehended it not.
Right.
Well, what didn't it comprehend? Torah.
that's why I tell you, if you walk in darkness,
You know what in the Torah. So if you only seeing what it is that you want to see, you ain't walking in the truth.
Right.
So we have people, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to bash my brothers and sisters in the church. I just wish they would wake up.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
The other night, we were watching The Matrix. I gotta steal it. And when Neo woke up in that little pod, the first thing he did was pull the thing out of his mouth, and then he started throwing up this lie. And then the next thing he did was look over and saw all these people still sleeping.
That's right.
All this because he took the red pill. And then the thing came up, hooked him around the neck, disconnected him, and flushed him down the toilet. That's how it is when we walk into this truth.
That's right.
We wake up, the world grabs us around our necks and flushes us, get rid of them.
Yeah.
They crazy, they in a cult.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you in a cult when you following what's written in the book? So you say, I'm going to try to be righteous. I'm going to be like Abraham, our father, our grandfather. And I'm going to walk in this truth that Abraham walked in. This truth that was accounted to him as righteousness. But now I'm in a cult because I want to take the whole book and live by the whole book and not by part of the book.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And only blind people are people that are living in a lie, and a fairy tale world will push that down your throat. That grace trumps the law. Grace is afforded to you because of the law. If you understand grace for what it was, every time a sin offering was brought before the Most High, that was grace. If you were caught in your sin and didn't get stoned, that was grace. If you weren't caught in your sin and didn't get stoned, that was grace. Because nothing that is done in the dark, whatever's done in the dark will be brought into the light. So whatever you do in the dark is going to be judged in the light. And what is it going to be judged by? Torah.
That's right.
The Levitical priesthood was set up before Levi even came into the world. And it was actually not the Levitical priesthood, but the one under Melchizedek. Do you know this is another thing. When we dig out and we get into this word and we begin to dig in this word, you'll begin to realize that they were keeping the feast days before they gave the feast days names.
Principle behind law.
Bread and wine.
In the wilderness, they did it.
In the wilderness, they did it. From the beginning of time, they did it.
Exactly.
The first thing that Noah did when he got off the boat was what? Plant a vineyard. But that wasn't the first thing. That was the second thing he did because he thought like us. The first thing he did was offer up. Well, that offering that they offered up, they had to eat.
Right,
So they practiced a feast and made it a monument or a memorial.
Well, when you go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1, I think verse 14, it
Tells you.
that let's go to it. Let's
Genesis
go to
1.
it.
And it talks about the moon and the stars.
Exactly. It says it's for a moed. What is a moed?
20 times.
20 times.
Feast days, what we call feast days. 20 times.
And it said, and Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven, and divide the day and the night, and let them be a sign, appointed feast for the day and the year. And the lights be for the light of the firmament, and for the heavens, and the light upon the earth. And it was so. So even in Bereshit or Genesis 1, he tells you that he established the feast days from the beginning.
So how do people keep trying to get rid of it when it's already established?
But then they say that you ain't supposed to keep the feast. We're going to do Easter and we're going to do Christmas. We're going to do these feast days that were created by men because they don't want to dig.
They don't want to dig. That's right.
If they got in a position to dig
Exactly.
and eat from what the first thing, hallelujah. The first thing, if you preparing a feast, you prepare the feast time off.
That's right.
Because you want everything to be in order during the time of the feast. And so when you started digging your rows, you knew exactly what it was you were going to plant.
Exactly.
So when Yahushua said, I go to prepare a place for you, he was actually telling you, you the crop I'm going to dig up for the feast.
Exactly. That's right.
Where's that scripture? John the Baptist calls.
That's why he had to be the first fruit.
Right, first.
He is the
Because
first
you're gonna
fruit.
become the first fruit.
Of the nations. The nations are going to eat from you. This is why we have to get out of this habit. Hold on, real quick. This is why we got to get out of this habit of bashing everybody.
Exactly.
Because we are really the priests to the nations.
Exactly.
We are the royal priests to the nations. So why are we bashing them?
Exactly.
He sent us to lead them into the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why is it that we've been in this captivity for 400 years and any other nation probably would have died under the weight of the burdens of this people? But we still here. And we still living. And we still stronger than them.
Read Revelations 22. Revelations 22.
Somebody find Revelation 22.
Revelations 22 and start off at verse 2. Revelation 22 and 2. Somebody read that.
Come on. What is it?
Revelation 2 and 22.
22 and what now?
And 2, verse 2.
You said Revelations 2?
There's no reference to
Oh,
22.
I'm
Revelation 22
22
Yes.
and 2.
and 2.
You got it? Go ahead.
In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nation.
Hold up. In the midst of the streets,
The river.
in the midst of the streets, and of it, on either side of the river, was there a tree, the tree of life, that bare 12 manners of fruit. The 12 tribes of Israel.
You're the fruit.
We are the fruit. And the yield of this fruit, it yielded fruit every month. So there was no off season. It bared fruit each month according to what it was.
Now we have to understand what kind of fruit are we bearing. Because we supposed to be for the healing of the nations.
Now I'm gonna piggyback on that one. I'm gonna piggyback on that one point. Now, if that fruit is supposed to be for the healing of the nations, and you really don't know if you Israel or not, they dress like us.
Yes.
They want to talk like us. They want to dance like us. They want to run like us. They want to be like us.
Exactly.
They want to be dark like us. They in the tanning beds. They want full lips like us, get lip injection. Kim Kardashian done got junk like us. you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So what happens is, when you look at us, even though we are the most oppressed people in the whole world, they still want to be like us.
Now visualize us doing that the Most High created us to do.
Exactly.
And they want to be like us.
That's my whole point. Exactly. Because if you're acting dysfunctional, and then they'll follow you in your dysfunctional state. Just imagine when you come back to Torah and become back functional.
So you wonder why each nation had us a captive in it. All the powerful nations. We talked about this on last week. The powerful nations had us because the blessing is with us. That's how their financial systems were made. Off of our backs, off of our labor, off of our knowledge. Look, man, the one thing, I'm going to say this, and I hate to sound racist, but I got to. White folks didn't invent nothing except the patent office.
That's right. That's true.
They ain't invent nothing but the patent office. Eli Whitney did not invent the cotton gin. His slave did.
Exactly.
The art of working in metals came from us. If you go over to England and walk through the Queen's vaults and get to see all of her stuff and that they stole from Benin, Togo, and all them places. They had masks of gold and of bronze and weapons of bronze and iron. That's what we did.
That's what we did.
Because the Most High gave that knowledge to us.
You can read that in the book of what? Chapter Genesis.
It's in Genesis.
Take that in Genesis.
If you look at Tubal, he was an iron worker.
That's right. That's right.
We have to embrace who it is we are. So we have to start digging into this truth. We can't take the word of his story because his story is a lie.
You know what's so powerful about not only the concept of Hamashiach digging. You remember, he's also he's a planter. He's planting too.
Yes.
So the fruit that you bear, if you're following him, because remember, he's the vine too, right? So if you're gonna follow him, you have to be able to bear the fruit that he do. You have to be able to plant the same seed that he planted. You have to plant.
Here it goes. John 15:1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. And every branch that is in me that bears not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that bears fruit, he purges it, he prunes it, that it may bring forth more fruit or much fruit.
Exactly.
Now ye have been cleansed by the words I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit unto itself, except it abides in the vine.
Exactly.
No more can ye expect to abide in me. Okay, and he says, I am the vine, and ye are. It uses the word nesira, or the branches.
Mm-hmm. Think about this here concept for 1 second, family. Sorry. The brother just bring up so much. But think about when the scripture talks about how that they're going to plant a strange tree or strange tree not going to bear any fruit. Because when you look at the people in the land, are they producing fruit?
No.
You see my point?
The people in the land, when the Most High basically said when he returns people back to the land, there will be no more war in the land.
Right.
Right.
They fight wars every day in the land. That ought to let you know that they ain't the people.
They're not the people.
They know they ain't the people.
Yeah.
They know the customs.
Right. Right.
They know the scripture. Look, man, it's deep. They know Torah. They also know the Talmud, which ain't
Torah.
Torah.
Additions of man.
It's additions of man. And they practice those additions. They even put the Talmud above the Torah.
Right.
This Babylonian book that was taken from their captivity, our captivity in Babylon.
Right.
Hey, let's go to Mark. Who got Mark 1? I'm gonna bring all this. Oh, thank you, Lua. Just start at Mark 1 and start reading.
In the beginning of the gospel of Yahushua HaMashiach, the son of Yahweh, as it is written in the prophets, behold, I send my messenger before thy face, that shall prepare thy way before thee.
Wait up, stop right there. That's basically all I needed. So he sent the messenger first to prepare the way. So he sent the messenger to scoop it out, to get the path straight. Before Yahamashiach ever came on the scene, who was that messenger?
John the Baptist. They call him John the Baptist.
Find
Malachi. Oh.
Luke.
is it no, Isaiah 40 and 3, because I want to hit on that word. So you got the first word, which is karaha, which is prepared out of the translation of that translation. Now I'm going to take you into the true Hebraic form of this word. Go.
Okay. Isaiah 40 and 3. The voice of one crying in the wilderness. Prepare the way of Yah. Make straight in the desert the highway for our Elohim. Continue.
Go to the next verse.
It says, every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill brought low. The crooked places shall be made straight, and the rough places smooth.
Okay, read them two again. And I mean, read them. This, ooh,
Okay. Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill brought low. The crooked places shall be made straight.
whoa. So go verse above that.
And every mountain and hill.
No.
Okay.
Go back to the voice.
Oh, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of Yah. Make straight in the desert the highway for our God.
Wait a minute. He came to prepare the way for who?
For Yah.
For who?
For Yah.
For who?
For Yah.
And the word did what? It became flesh.
That's right.
Who was the word? Yah.
That's right.
So when we had this distinction between the people that say the Yahushua wasn't the son of God and God didn't come down, he did come down. He came down in the form of what? His word.
That's right. That's right. His word. Correct.
I've been fighting with this stuff for months, man. I ain't got to the point that I wouldn't even pray to Jesus no more.
Yeah.
Going into this truth. Then I'll pray to the Most High and use in the name of the Yeshua Yamashiach. I wouldn't do it.
Until you start seeing this.
Until I started eating.
Yeah.
And then one day I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
my bad.
That's right.
Because then I had to realize that he prepared the way for who? Yah. Well, Yah didn't come as in his real form because he couldn't.
Man couldn't handle
Woo. First of all, man couldn't handle it.
Right.
That's right.
But he couldn't show up in his real form because he couldn't redeem the bride that he had already casted out.
Exactly.
So he had to come in another form to redeem the bride. Because when a man divorces the bride, he can't remarry
You
her.
can't remarry her. Exactly. So Yah will be committing adultery.
Adultery.
He would be committing adultery
with his own people.
with his own people.
So he had to come in another form to redeem the bride back into himself.
Exactly.
Because now if another man marries the bride and gets rid of her, then he can come back and marry her again.
Exactly. And that man has to die though. And that man has to be a what? A priest.
So Yeshua had to die, and he was a priest.
He was a priest.
So that validated y'all then coming back to get us.
That's right.
And I know your head itchy. Don't scratch it.
You see it smoking over there.
Yeah, your head on fire.
I tell people that all the time, man. When you start understanding this marriage principle, the problem with our people, we're reading this book without understanding the marriage principles. Without understanding agriculture. If you don't understand agriculture, he's the husbandman. Husbandry and agriculture go hand in hand. Then when you plant this stuff, now you're taking the stuff that you're taking out of your garden, you're getting for a marriage. Why? Because the fruit, think about this, the concept, the fruit that you're cutting and you're preparing. Oh, what else?
Keep going, talk.
Okay, I'm sorry. The fruit that you're preparing, right? The fruit is just not looking at it from a physical standpoint. Look at the fruit that you bear out of your loins, out of man, about his loins. You know what I'm saying? So this man has to be what? He has to be in husbandry. He has to be in gardening. He has to understand these things. And the woman that he's going to deal with, he's plowing. The woman is going to be. I hope y'all got this. I'm sorry, y'all. But this is why you have to understand husbandry and marriage go hand in hand. All people have gotten away from this. All right? All right.
Now that word prepare in the Hebraic sense is panah. Now it comes from the root word panah, or panah, and it is actually spelled out this way. You can spell this word two ways. Boy, the Most High is a trip. I'm going to focus on both ways that it can be spelled before I let the two-letter root. Y'all bear with me. Y'all bear with me.
That's why they call Jerusalem the mother of us. Because you're supposed to be planting your seeds over there.
Right.
In Jerusalem.
And y'all's the husband.
Exactly. Right.
Well, yeah.
You ain't gonna get this over Sunday.
No, absolutely. No.
I'm going to write this. Okay, I'm going to write this in Paleo. And I'm going to write this in modern script as well. That way people can see what it means. Because this is a trip. Y'all are something else, man. Y'all just don't. This is final noon. And Panah is actually that is P-A-N-A. This is P-A-N P-A-N-A-H and P-A-N-N-A. The name. Okay. So, for everybody to see, in Isaiah, this word panah or paneh or paha actually means to prepare as well. Now, this first letter is the ayin or the I. I mean, sorry. back up. That first letter is pay, which is the open mouth to spring out. I don't know why I said die. To spring out. Okay, the second letter is noon or nun, however you pronounce it, because it's the seed.
Okay.
It's the head of the seed. So it represents seed.
Seed. Yeah, man seed.
And then once again, we have the hay, or to behold. So in Panah this way, it means to behold what, it means whatever is being spoken is seed for us to behold or to prepare, right? But the root really means to turn around. So when somebody calls out to you and says, hey, you turn back to them. And it means like turning your face. Like if I said your name, you would turn your face to look at me. So when he says, behold, a voice comes crying out the wilderness, preparing a way. Read that again.
It says,
because I don't want, this can't be messed up.
the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of Yah, make straight in the desert the highway of Allah.
So this man is calling out to prepare those who he's calling to walk on what? The straight and narrow.
Right.
Not the wide gate, but that narrow gate that leads to righteousness. Not the wide gate that leads to the destruction, which everybody else want to walk down. Now, if you look at it this way, Panaha, or Panahe, it's the mouth putting out seed, but it's multiplied because it's double seed. So it's very important that we put out, when we call out to folks as the nation, we call out bringing forth what? The proper seed, which is what? Torah. If it ain't Torah, then we don't need to talk it.
Exactly.
We don't need to present it to nobody.
Right.
We got to quit presenting these arguments that don't make no sense. The lunar calendar ain't going to save you.
Right.
Flat Earth ain't gonna save
The
you.
flat earth ain't going to save you.
Right.
Man, whoever Edom is ain't going to save you.
Right.
Only thing that's going to save you is abiding by.
Torah.
The Messiah ain't even coming back for those who don't abide in this.
Torah. Right. Yes,
That's
sir.
a twofold proposition. You don't have grace if you ain't in Torah, so don't be expecting for when the clouds bust open for him to even talk to you. Because he's going to say, oh, depart from me, oh, you workers of iniquity, because I know you not.
Right, which is Torahlessness.
Right. This is lawlessness.
What's your lawlessness? I don't get it. They read this and
They
don't realize
read-
he's telling you you don't have no law in you.
Right. The fruit of the Spirit, law, is, being lawful is part of the fruit of the Spirit. What's the James chapter where it talks about sin as transgression of the law?
That's James 4? 4:3? Let's get that really fast.
I'm almost done. But engineering this thing, don't laugh. Engineering this thing is kind of like a fan to turn. The actual engineering is like a fan or to turn or to spin around. So when somebody calls your name and says, you should spin and get back on the right path going back to them. So this messenger, what was John the Baptist's message? Oh, repent, for the kingdom of the Most High is at hand.
Right. Repent. To choose, to turn. Go right.
Where is that scripture where he talks about bearing fruit worthy of repentance?
You want to get the transgression of law?
Yes.
Let's go to First John.
Is it 1 John?
Yeah, 1 John
Okay, so 1 John
Chapter 3,
verse 4.
Whosoever committed sin transgressed also the law. For sin is transgression of the law.
So John decides that he is going to clear up the whole matter. Find Ecclesiastes 12. 12 and 3, I think. So John says sin is what? Transgression of the law. So you can't live under this pretense that sin has nothing to do with the law. If you're going to be judged, if Most High is a righteous judge, he has to have something to judge you by.
That's right.
He ain't going to just say, and he's righteous, so he's not going to have a law or what he's going to judge you by without you having the book.
That's right.
You going to know exactly why you got sent to the lake of fire. He ain't even going to really have to explain it in the detail with you. You going to realize that whatever was spoken wasn't circumcised on your heart, and you ain't going to make it, boo-boo. I'm sorry. This is just what's going to happen.
Well, this is the thing that was amazing to me. If you have the book of life and you have another book he's going to open, what is that book going to be?
The book. say that again.
If he's going to take the book of life and he's going to have another book, what is that book going to be that he's going to judge you by?
It's the book that was written from the beginning of time.
Very simple. He's opened up 2 books.
Torah
And all with your life
in your life, and he's going to walk your life out through Torah, and he's going to show you where you're wrong. And the thing is, if you haven't accepted Yahweh Mashiach, or if you haven't accepted the sacrifice made for you, then he's going to judge you by the letter of the law.
Right.
But if you've accepted Yeshua, Yamashiach, or Yeshua, or Jesus, whoever you want to call him, if you accepted him into your life, then you will find grace. But it don't mean that you don't try to live by this book.
Right.
He said, if you love me, if you say you love me and keep not my commandments, you a lie, and the truth ain't in you.
That's true.
I'm sorry, I'm yelling. This stuff right here, man, I'm telling you, it lit into my spirit so hard at work that I was weeping. I was actually weeping because I had to repent for myself. In that moment, I realized that I'm going to go to this analogy, then I'm going to let my sister talk. So yesterday, I went and picked up Ladiah and I picked up Sister Angie, and they came over to the house and they were getting food prepared, not only for us to eat last night, but the food together for tonight. And I was sitting in that chair and I was making all these comments and cracks and was talking, and the Most High said, shut up and look. And I'm like, what? Like, shut up and look. And as I started looking, by this time, Angie has a broom, and she's sweeping up the house from the front door all the way in here. And they're picking it up. And Ladiah is sitting up there pointing, and Angie's sweeping, and then Angie's wiping, and Ladiah's studying, and she's pointing, and she's grabbing stuff out of the thing, and he started showing me they're preparing. And the first thing they did before they even prepared the meal was they cleaned up. So when Yeshua died, he cleaned up. He cleaned up everything for us before he even went to prepare the place.
Right.
So when these sisters came into my house and Angie said, I want you to forgive me up front because we do this and people get offended. And I'm sitting in this chair bubbling. I'm like, oh, the Ruach is just dealing with me because I'm bubbling inside because I'm watching this word walk itself out in my house. That the Most High would love me enough to show me what he's been putting in me all week walk itself out in about a 3-hour period. And I didn't move from that chair except to run to the restroom and come back. And I was like, and each ingredient, they thought out each ingredient. And Yeshua is has thought out each ingredient for this feast. That's why 2/3 of us ain't gonna make it. And then another thing they did, look, I'm not saying my house is nasty because it ain't, but they cleaned it. But they went into the refrigerator. This is what tripped me out. They went into the refrigerator and went into the crisper, and they took the vegetables out. And the first thing she did, she said, I'm gonna look at things for the expiration date. That's the first thing that shot out of her mouth. And then the next thing she said, and then I'm gonna look at it and see if it's withered, and then I'm gonna get rid of it. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about y'all.
Yes.
If we ain't straight by the expiration date,
Come on.
woo!
You don't know.
Boy, if you ain't straight by the expiration date,
Your food is dying off.
you dying off.
And don't even get it. Don't even get it.
It don't matter how much preservative he got in you. If you ain't straight by the expiration date, it don't matter that he could eat on you for 2 more weeks. If you ain't straight by this expiration date, into the lake of fire you gonna go.
That's right.
If you withered in any way and ain't producing good fruit,
That's right. Because you're supposed to be producing this fruit month after month.
what?
Consistent.
What?
You produce this fruit month after month.
You can't produce good fruit on this month and bad fruit on this month
Exactly.
and not expect to be pruned.
But you out there talking about, like, I hate this and I hate that. I'm going to kill this and I'm going to kill that. And you ain't producing no good fruit.
Look, man, the nation, even inside of the nation, we got this bad habit of wanting to point out the brothers and yell at brothers on the street and say what we gonna do when Yeshua come back or when judgment comes. And the fact of the matter is, he don't need you.
He don't need you.
Your job is gonna be to really sit there and judge. You ain't gonna be fighting nothing. He got the fight. He already said the battle is his.
Exactly. Well, hold on. But this what brothers do not get. When the man get married, before he come get his bride, he has to be gone for a certain period of time.
A year.
Right? And he can't go to war
within that year.
But if war break out after that, then he can go to war. So he's even planning out even in his return.
That we ain't gonna have to fight the
You don't
battle.
have to
The
fight.
battle's his.
The battle's his. He's the husbandman.
Your job is to sit and judge. You gonna sit on, look, we're gonna be represented on the 12 thrones. There's gonna be 12 thrones. And he gonna pass his judgment from them thrones.
That's right.
And we just gonna be represented.
That's right.
It's gonna be kind of like it's gonna be like the Supreme Court.
That's right. Administrators.
Right, we're gonna administrate what the judgments are.
Mm-hmm.
And those people that are in the other nations, if they try to line up or keep with Torah and not boast and brag because they're the wild olive branch who has gotten out of control, because the wild olive branch think that we grafted into them, and in all actuality they grafted into us.
Yes.
But they don't want to keep no feast days because that's too much work.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't the scripture tell you he'll see your good works?
That's right.
Well, what's his good works? Keeping his feast days.
That's right. That's right.
He don't. So, Panah and Paha. What is it?
As we are talking about the fruits of the Spirit, the fruit that we should bear.
Go ahead and tell.
In Galatians chapter 5,
Yes.
Galatians chapter 5, we should be bearing these fruits every day.
Go ahead and show.
And that's verse 22 and 23.
Woo. What are those fruits?
But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they are, continue your song.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
And they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with their affections and lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us do not be desirous of vainglory, provoking one another, envying one another.
Stop. So he said, if we if we are of the Spirit, right? So read it again.
If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit.
So what is the ruach? It is the prescribed path.
Exactly.
So if we in the ruach, we have to walk according to the ruach, which means we have to stay on what? The straight path. Well, what's the straight path? It's the voice that was crying out from the wilderness.
Exactly.
Man, y'all gonna make me throw this book.
Also adding to that is, he just put another dagger in religion. You cannot see the Spirit if you can't walk in it.
Say that again.
You cannot see the Spirit if you can't walk in it. All these people keep talking about spiritual, but here it is, you can't even walk in it. What you gotta walk in? You gotta walk in Torah. You have to walk in Torah to receive the Spirit.
Tell them, Mom. Tell them, Mom.
You have to walk in Torah to receive the Spirit.
How was righteousness accounted to Abraham? He obeyed his what? Laws, statutes, and commandments. So he kept Torah. So people, man, this is why I tell everybody, you need to get the book of Jasher, you need to get the book of Enoch, you need to get the book of Jubilees, and you need to break these books down and read them, because you will actually see what Genesis is a very vague writing of what happened in the beginning times. But these three books break it down so you'll actually know what Abraham did. The nations came to Abraham. The nations came to Enoch because they were righteous. Even when they were about to lock up, when Noah was about to get locked up into the ark, the nations came to him and like, look, let us in. The brother was like, no. I've been telling y'all this.
I've been telling y'all this about years.
Yeah, for 120 years I've been telling y'all, and y'all missed this.
I'm gonna say also in the beginning, like with Cain and Abel, how when the Most High gave the instructions of the Torah to Abel, he gave them both on what to do.
Right.
Because faith comes by hearing, and not comes by hearing, and hearing of the word of Yah.
Right.
So they had the instructions on what to do. Yet Abel did what the Most High Yah told him to do.
Exactly.
Cain thought, I do it the way that I think this is going to be good enough for you. You see what I'm saying? And it wasn't accepted. But it was accepted because Abel, because he did it according to Torah.
Torah, exactly.
What was accepted?
The sacrifice.
So you go to church and you worship according to the way you want to worship. He don't even hear you.
No, not at all.
What is that? Is it Psalms or is it Proverbs 29?
Here says the president of the sin. What you talking about?
You're saying they're abomination.
Yeah.
Before you find out, I want to also add that, because of Abraham, did he believe the Most High? By his instruction was accounted to him for righteousness. It's the same way. Now, David spoke by the Ruach saying that today, as you hear the voice of Yah, harden not your heart. Well, what is the voice of Yah? That's the Torah. As you hear it, harden not your heart. Because those that don't refuse to hear Torah, even their prayers an abomination to the Most High Yah. You see what I'm saying? You don't want to get that way.
Is that 29 and 11?
20, I believe so. I was leaving inside.
This is why you have to be careful when you're dealing with people that aren't in the word or in the truth. You have to be careful who you have praying over you or for you. That's why when a lot of people say, I'm going to pray for you, I'll be all right. Because a lot of these people I know ain't in Torah. So I don't say nothing, I just, okay.
I'm good.
Is it 29 and 11?
You talking about Psalms 29:11? No, Psalms 29:11 is Yah will be strength to his people.
Where it says the prayers are abomination.
1 Peter 3:12.
No. It's in the Old Testament.
Yeah. Them that turn themselves from hearing the law, hearing the Torah, even their prayers are an abomination.
Yeah.
That's
That's it, 28:9. I don't know where I got 29:11. When you get it, say con.
Con.
Go ahead and read it.
Proverbs 28:9 says, one who turns away his ear from hearing the law, or ear from hearing the Torah, even his prayer is an abomination.
So, if you ain't in this book and you don't listen to what Torah say, you don't even need to pray. Because your prayers are an abomination. He don't hear them. I'm going to pray about this. No, I'm going to hold on to that. I need some people that in the book. And I don't mean just reading the book. I need some people that are living this book, walking this book. It don't mean that you're going to be without sin, but that you know how to turn back when you hear Panah.
That's right.
And you can prepare yourself. We're going to go into, in keeping with preparation, I'm going to step down. But in keeping with preparation, we're going to keep it going. Sister Lagaya is going to come up and share a little word for not only the women, but for us as well, so that we can be fed. And it goes, so we just started into the feast season. But prior to the feast season, we have what they call Purim. Purim, which is the preparation for the feast. And so you have to have yourself in a certain position or in a certain state of mind. And these words kind of they actually overlap. That's why the Most High gave it. We're going to go into a study on it real quick. And that way we can get all of this together. It can be fed. We can be fed. And then we can give the Most High praise and glory for His word coming forth. And then we can break bread.
Every day, every move I make, it's just to get closer. I've gotta get closer. Lead me, guide me, every step I take.
We're just gonna, if Brother Tonti or Shari, one of the brothers, can read for me 25 and 29 is the verses we're gonna kind of keep in mind throughout all of this. I'm gonna write the Hebrew, the basics right quick. There's a couple places we're gonna go, but it's all, I mean, I'm over here about to have my own little mini fit because I'm like, wow, like I'm just blown away because of what he has presented. I didn't even know that he had that in store for us. So stay with me and then you can see how this preparation has to do with this idea of Purim or Parium. When you guys are ready, if someone could read that one. Esther's 9:25 through 29, just to give us a context of Purim. Where we're starting. I think a couple of you guys got my text message. It's just the notes that I have. If you want to stay with the scriptures, I'm going to go pretty quickly, so in case you don't catch all of them. And if you want those, I can send it to you. It's in the chat group.
You got it?
Esther 9:20, said 25.
25 through 25.
But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his son should be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter, and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to their appointed time every year. And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city. And that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from the seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai, the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim.
Now, I want y'all to understand something for all them that are about to get mad because of women teaching. This was a teaching from Esther to the nation, to save the nation. Mm-hmm. Esther took this from the Most High to save the nation, and she wrote this down. So if what you're about to see bothers you, this is just one of those disclaimers.
All right, so Purim. So we just get the context of her, what happened with her and her husband and the nation became an ordinance for us to keep. So understanding, we're talking about feast days and the cleansing and being preparation. This is a season of preparation that becomes an ordinance for us to keep all through our generations. So Purim, I'm doing a little bit paleo, older script, so so lucky for that. But the Hebrew concordance number, if you want to reference it, just so that you can verify, is Hebrew 6332. And starting right to left, it's the open. He realized this earlier with the pay, which is the opening of the mouth. We talked about what's coming out of the mouth from the king, but I use the word abundance for the king. It's still the king, but he has an abundance of things, right? How the kingship heads, he has all our wealth, he has our judgments, he has our finances, all those things come from him from abundance.
What letter is that? Aleph?
The Resh.
Okay, the Resh.
Okay, and then the strong arm, the Yod or Yah is the right arm, it's strong, it's strength, and then the Mem or Ma is the flow. I'm getting better at these for you. So what I have is, there's a strong flow from the open head, and so I'm going to break down some root words just to kind of get a little bit understanding of what they're trying to say with this, because when you read the definition, it says to break, to bring to naught, or a lot, or a piece of a broken piece. So talk about that seed again. If you break it open, what's coming out of it is really a key point here that they're trying to point out in the definition. But the root word I'm going to look at is, the first one is Hebrew 6499, which is par. So you just look at these first two, and it's talking about the release of the abundance, or the release from the king. And also not just releasing or to open, it also means to purge, this opening that comes out. So if you've ever had to chunk anything up, you had to purge yourself out by throwing it up, right? There's another letter that kind of resembles that, but it's the idea of your mouth has to open to let that out. Another root word, looking at the ending, is yum. A lot of times in Hebrew it's pluralizing it, but here yum, if you look up, I think it's Hebrews 3:2-20, yum also means a sea or a large body of water. So we're gonna look at a scripture really quick. Actually, we're gonna have to go there. In Esther, when she's being vetted for the woman to take the seat along many other women, there's a year process that she has to go through of cleaning herself. So this body of water, she's literally putting myrrh for 6 months, and then other oils and contents in the water so she can purge herself. So we're gonna get into that a little bit. So keep that in mind, that there's a body of water that helped her purify for her Purim, which she became a part of, and her, the rest of that story. So in general, we're looking at a strong flow from the open head, which is the king here, or his abundance, and also the root for par, remember we focus on this, is 6499, and ironically that means a bullock or a clean animal, a breaking forth in the wild strength. And that's interesting because I was like, well, what does that have to do with anything? What does a bullock have to do with anything about purging, purifying? And then it made me think about Numbers 19. We were talking about this. Just a quick recap. Numbers 19 is about the red heifer offering that the priest did so that they can make the water of separation, which was also purifying them from sin. So looking at that whole scripture, from they touch dead bodies, if they were touching graves, if they, just anything. If you were in the home, someone died, and you had open vessels, all that stuff became unclean. So they had to go to this water of separation with hyssop and do certain things to cleanse themselves.
Who was the water of separation for us? Mashiach. He was that red bullock.
Right.
Oh boy, I just want to shout.
Part of this definition, when you look at the 86332, it says a lot. It threw me off for a long time until this morning, just spending some time with the Father. I was like, what's a lot? What's that have to do with anything? And then it took me to the Spirit took me to the 1 Chronicles 24, and I was reading about how David was giving the instruction onto Solomon about how to keep the priestly order. And we keep talking about this. If you look at 1 Chronicles 24 in your own time, he tells us the 24 courses, how they set up the priesthood, and then going into the name of each lot that they have to serve in. And we were talking about John the Baptist earlier, and in order to figure out why John the Baptist's father got the prophecy from Gabriel, what was about to happen, how he's going to give birth, he was in his 8th lot, Abijah, and it's in the 8th course. And I was like, well, a lot, what do these priests do? Their administration, a lot of that has to do with sacrificing things for an atonement, for purification, for the sins, all kinds of things, looking out for the nation and even the Gentiles at some point. So this idea of breaking us out of something, most of it's breaking us out of corrupt seed, right? So if you crack open the seed, it's what the fruit bears, right? We want life, but a lot of the times why we needed our administration to look out was because we had a lot of corruptness. So breaking up that seed, there was a lot of junk, but we have to get that out for purging so that we may be restored into our Father. So this is the main word we're going to focus on, but I'm going to go through a couple scriptures just to kind of drive it home. We just talked about this, Daniel 11:35, really quick. And I'm going to use some other words that kind of help make us understand this concept of purging and purifying from parium. So I'm going to go into a little bit of what the words are for purge or to purify. So Daniel 11:35, just that verse. We were just talking about how, if we need to work on ourselves, and the position where, he had showed earlier was of us working on what we're digging out, which should be in ourselves first, right? If anyone has that, let's go ahead and read that.
And some of those of understanding shall fall, to refine them, purify them, and make them white until the time of the end, because it is still for the appointed time.
Okay. So that scripture is talking about if we shall fall. We have understanding. We're all coming into understanding. But if we shall fall, it's for a reason. And what's the reason, Sayah?
It is to refine them, purify them and make them white.
To make us white, right? And to refine us. And there's this idea of Purim. We keep it for the feast, the ordinance for a week, but we're missing that there's a season in general that we have to be purging, and that leads up to Passover. Which we started talking about this because we were talking about preparation for Passover. Well, in order to talk about preparation for Passover, you need another preparation season, which starts at Purim. And even I would say it even goes further back to right when the atonement starts, because all we can see is that there's this steady season of getting ourselves cleaned up. And when you look at the year, there's 12 months. It's folded on top of each other. At the head of each half, there's a high holy day, which is the unleavening, purging ourselves. There's also Passover. But then in the feast, on the second half, we have our trumpets, which is about our harvest, as well as the atonement, which is more purging ourselves, right? Afflicting ourselves. So the fold is happening, and he's giving us both both halves to deal with ourselves. So there, we're gonna go. Esther 12:2 was that concept that she's purging for a year. So bringing the idea that we have a whole year and 2 halves are really solidified around high holy days, it gives us a lot of seasons to be working on our purification process. And so we think about women in general purifying for weddings or purifying for cycles or whichever, but we're actually purifying so that we can deal with the Father and deal with our bridegroom, right? So in order to come up out of her, we need to go to a purifying place, location in the wilderness. We read a couple of those scriptures today, right? And those precepts earlier. Next, someone can grab, just a couple of scriptures that really stuck out that are talking about how the Father is washing Yasharallah, not just one woman or a woman, but in general, his bride. He's doing it on different occasions. He's made prophecies about it. He's telling us what he's doing right now. So Isaiah 4:4, if someone wants to grab that, and then if someone else wants to grab Jeremiah 18:4, just so we can get those back to back.
Say Isaiah 4:4.
Isaiah 4:4.
For the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Zion and upon assemblies a cloud of smoke by day and shining the firmament fire by night. For upon all glory shall be a defense.
Right, so the key thing is that in order to get to these things, he said that he was going to wash away the filth of the daughters of Zion. So how does he do that? By restoring us, we keep saying all today. Preparing us, which is the preparation, is getting ourselves prepared to do this law so that we may do that for eternity in our roles as administrators. Correct? And really quick, Jeremiah 18:4 gives us a little bit more on that. And then I'm going to read Isaiah 64:6, talking about him washing the daughters of Yasharallah. Isaiah 64:6, while we're waiting on the other scripture, is one that we were trying to find last week. But we are all as unclean things, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags, and will all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquity, like the wind, have taken us away. He compares us to filthy rags. So if we think that we can make it in this state, we're really mistaken, right? Because we're full of sin, right? We're full of lawlessness. The word that you use is pretty great, you know? So in general, we're trying to find the way to get back to righteousness, which is following the law, statutes, commandments. And when we're doing that, as we find ourselves doing it, we make error. We're purging ourselves from our old ways to make that turn so that we may walk in his righteous way.
Yes.
Who has Jeremiah 18?
Jeremiah 18:4. It says, and the vessels that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again into another vessel, as it seemed good to the potter to make. That's 4.
Right, so talking about this vessel, going back to Numbers 19, we didn't read it, but there's a part where it talks about if if there is a man that dies in his home, if there's an open vessel that is open, it becomes unclean. And so also you have to clean the things in your home that are open. But what stuck out to me is, okay, well, if it was topped, it's not unclean. But we're the vessels. Doesn't he compare us, and I think it's in Isaiah as well, that he compares us to the vessel, right? And if we're open to things, we're not sealed by him, because there's a sealing that takes part. That's that bond in our covenant. If we're not sealed by him, then we're unclean.
Hallelujah.
So, and then he's always talking about the vessel being broken, and how much more could he put us together, right? There's a couple scriptures later that we'll hit. How much more could he put us together if he can put that, bound that clay together and bring forth back that marred vessel? So in general, I'm thinking, whoa, you're talking about us, right? So we're going to grab Psalms 51:7 and then Hebrews 9:12. We're just going to kind of just go through these scriptures, getting this vessel and this uncleanness and the covenant, seeing all these things, how they come together with purification. Because usually what is held, how is that water held? In a vessel, right? But also our water, that flow is the ruach, right? The ruach is the flow. And it's held in a vessel. It's supposed to be held in us. That's how we can produce a righteous fruit. So Psalms 51:7, just that verse, and then Hebrews 9:12. When you get there, whoever has it first can just go ahead and read.
You say Psalms
Psalms 51:7,
7.
and then Hebrews 9:12.
Purge me with what it is,
Hyssop.
hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whitened than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones without has broken may rejoice. Hide thy face from my sin, and blot out all my iniquity.
Yes.
Right, so once again, the hyssop. We just celebrated Passover, right? Passover, in order to get the blood over their home, so they could not be purged by death, they used hyssop to mark that blood on there. Also, David understands the priestly order. So going back to Numbers 19, when they had to use this perfect red heifer to make this water of separation, they used hyssop to help purify the blood when they burned it. So this concept